Good morning, everyone. It's Dave, aka DREBG, senior member over at informedtrades.com. If you haven't had the chance to get over there, I would welcome you to do so. You'll find a lot of free stuff and a lot of good traders sharing a lot of great information. I'm going to share with you a trade that I took yesterday on the Euro Pound. This is the hourly chart. Today, by the way, is Wednesday, June 30th, 2010. And what we're looking at is some price action over the last couple of days, and I'll show you where I entered my trade and why. Now, the first thing I saw was some divergence on the RSI and on price action from here to here and on RSI from here to here. But before I do anything, I like to go over to my daily charts and draw some support and resistance areas. If I take these lines and put them in, those support and resistance lines would look like this. So I have 4 of these lines set in on the areas that I think price action is going to have some reason to pause or reverse or what have you. This will give me the confluence I need before I make my trades. So if we go back to the 1 hour, I can now draw in my divergence that I saw earlier, and now we have some pretty distinct divergence, and more importantly we have it around an area of confluence because these are one of the support and resistance areas we identified on the daily chart. So when we look at where price action is, what we're waiting for now is the RSI to get above the middle Bollinger Band in accordance with price action and see where we are then. And you can also note that we're above the 10 SMA on momentum, and momentum's trending upwards. So basically on this break here of the 50 of RSI as well as the center Bollinger Band is exactly where I decided to get long. These little tiny X's that you see are MACD crosses on a regular 12-26-9 calculation, just to clean up my chart so I don't actually have to have MACD on it. And the larger arrows here, the red and the green, that's simply a 12-26 EMA cross, which, as most of you know, that is the 0 line for MACD. So when I've crossed the MACD down, this is what it would look like. When that has crossed below the 0 line, this is what it would look like. It crossed a little bit here, but then crossed right back down again, still below the waterline. And I just put those on there mainly just to make sure that I know where MACD is, and also use it as some form of confirmation. You'll see here just after I entered my train, MACD crossed up and we started trending upwards. So before I entered the trade, you actually always have to make sure you calculate where your stop loss is going to be, and I wanted it to be below this area of support and resistance and below this swing low, and I put it about 30 pips back. And the next area of resistance really for me was going to be this next support and resistance area and the 200 EMA, so I put it just below that, right around here, for about 90 pips up, which would give me a risk to reward of 1 to 3. So if we now put our stop loss and targets in, you'll see that indeed by entering here long, we have 30 pips back here and we have 90 pips up here. So this is a great risk to reward. It's a great setup that looks like everything's in line. If I show you the actual page that I took the trade off of, this is what it looks like. These 2 lines represent 2 trades that I took, and I'll show you the reason why I did that. There's the first entry, which is on top, which is here, and you'll see that we hadn't quite crossed the 50 or the center Bollinger Band yet. And when this, I'm going to zoom in, candle was headed downwards, I was getting a little nervous. This one here, it came all the way down, like these 2 shadows. These were pretty long, which is another indication of why I wanted to get long. These are great bullish candle reversals. This one, when it was heading down, was getting pretty big and pretty scary, and I didn't know if it was going to reverse. It didn't hit my stop, and it finally ended up reversing. But if you'll look, this one I also entered here when it was on its way back up. I entered there again because when I bring this down to the 15, you'll see what they both look like in a little more detail. When we put it in perspective, you'll start to see that it made a little more sense to enter the second trade where I did. Here's the first one. As you can see, we did fine when we're on the 15-minute chart. We entered actually maybe even a little bit late because we crossed here and it's on its way up. But I entered up here, which is still a good trade because my momentum is up. My RSI is above 50, it's crossed the Bollinger Band after divergence, all that good stuff. But this is the candle I was worried about. I was just telling you about that on the hourly. You can see it better here. After this came down and went below these lows, I was getting a little nervous. It did end up coming right back, and as it did, you can see that this is a much better entry. And the reason is I came below the center Bollinger Band and even touched down by the 30 as far as the RSI is concerned. When it went back up this time through the center Bollinger Band and started heading north of 50, and momentum bounced off that 10 SMA, this is a better trade, and this is where it should have been taken to begin with. So I entered a second lot right there because it was more confirmation to me that this thing was really going to start to turn around and have an up day. So by going down to that 15-minute time frame, I usually don't go lower than that when I use this technique. It really made this much more visible and able to see that this is just going to be a good move all the way around. If you remember, this 14 SMA that I have here, I have it changing color as it goes, as RSI goes above the 50. So you'll see here, for instance, RSI is below the 50 here, and when it goes above the 50, it either turns back to blue or turns green if it's well above the 50. And that's why here, as it starts to turn, you'll see that it crosses above the 50 here. That's where it turns green. It's just a visual confirmation of where things are going from an RSI standpoint, plotted on the price action. And again here too, you can see here's a MACD cross on the 15. Here's the MACD zero line cross, which really made me stay in the trade when it was already going. So moving back to the hourly, you'll see that as the day progressed, it just kept getting better and better. I'd let this thing ride. I didn't really do much. I felt pretty confident that we could get to the next support and resistance level, so having my target a little lower than that, I felt pretty good about just letting it ride, and it worked out great. Both lots hit their targets, that's why they're green here, and we had a nice profit for both of those yesterday. This was a live trade, and it seemed to work out really well. So that's it for now. If you have some questions, feel free to give me an email at drebg@yahoo.com, or you can see me over on my blog or poking around at informedtrades.com, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.